Welcome into Duval Daily, presented by GenJag.com. I'm Jordan Alugo. Thank you so much for tuning in here on Wednesday, September 18th, second show of the day for y'all. Again, normally tomorrow we would be getting into Buffalo Bills talk, preview, etc. And we have started a little bit, not in earnest, but talked to the guys at Cover One last night. Anthony from Cover One on Disguised Coverage. Go check that out. That's like a really good matchups talk show on the Cover One YouTube. But right now, there's a ton of doom and gloom, and I understand why. And I think it's fair, right? Like the Jaguars, even though they have started out slow traditionally under Doug Peterson, right? 1-2 last year, all of a sudden you're 8-3. 3-7 in 2022, all of a sudden you're 9-8. They have started slow. I think the reason it feels different for a lot of fans right now is because of the end of last season. So the Jaguars have lost 7 of 8, 2 straight games. The only team they've beaten in that stretch is the Carolina Panthers, who are the most inept franchise, in the league right now. So I get it, but I did want to offer a little bit of hope. And obviously, I still think you have the quarterback in a big, big way. And Trevor Lawrence is going to be around here for a while. He is 11th in adjusted EPA, expected points added. So, even though things aren't going great on this offense, he's still doing well. Another player doing really well. First-round pick, Brian Thomas Jr. He's been one of the most efficient wide receivers in football, which is really impressive considering he's been a downfield threat. He's 6th in yards per route run. He's 2nd in quarterback rating when targeted, has one of the highest average yards per catch. So Brian Thomas Jr., Jaguars traded down into the 20s to be able to acquire some extra draft capital and pick up Brian Thomas Jr. That was a deft move by Trent Baalke, in my opinion. Now, there's been a lot of things I think Trent Baalke's done well, a lot of things I don't think he's done very well. I think I can say the same thing about Doug Peterson to this point in this regime. And so it's a frustrating situation. Jags fans, they don't want to hear anything other than what's next. But what's actually next is 15 football games and the Buffalo Bills and the Texans after that. So there's still 15 games left in this season. Doug Peterson has a chance to get things back on track. And I'm not sitting here telling you he's going to or that he's not going to. I don't know. I think it's very unpredictable how things will go with the Jaguars. They've been a streaky team under Doug Peterson. Had really low lows and some incredible highs as well. But one thing I do know is the Jacksonville Jaguars need to feed Brian Thomas Jr. Now, I'm not saying don't spread the ball out, because they should spread the ball out. You have other talented receivers. When Evan Ingram gets back, you've got 5 guys to throw the football to that you feel really good about. But Christian Kirk, you're still kind of trying to work him back into the offense. I don't know really what's been going on with that. It's been a bizarre situation there. Gabe Davis, he can be up and down as a performer. You saw Brenton Strange get more involved. I thought they overly utilized Brenton Strange. It was almost like every single play they would have drawn up for Evan Ingram, they drew up for Brenton Strange. I don't think he's that type of volume threat at this point. I don't want Gabe Davis and Brenton Strange getting more targets than Brian Thomas Jr. And that's no slight against them. They're fine players. Brian Thomas Jr. is a 6'3", 210-pound receiver, runs like the wind, crazy elevation. He's got great suddenness at that size, quickness. He's slithery, elevation, almost 40-inch vert or 40-inch vert. I mean, the catch radius, the ability to create chunk plays down the field. So I want more targets for Brian Thomas Jr. And it doesn't have to be all downfield shots. I do think you want to get him going more underneath. And they tried to do that a little bit. You had kind of a speed out stick concept that I think Trevor Lawrence just missed the ball placement and almost got intercepted. You also had kind of a glance route where Trevor Lawrence accurately put it on Brian Thomas Jr., who just couldn't haul it in. It should have been a catch. So, like, it's not like they aren't trying at all, but still, he only has 8 targets in 2 games. 9 targets if you include the pass interference in week 1. You saw Malik Neighbors get double-digit targets in a single game. You've seen Marvin Harrison Jr. get heavily featured in week 2, right? You want to have Brian Thomas Jr. as more of a focal point because he is your most talented receiver, without question. Probably your most talented offensive skill player. Now, the Bills this week, they're probably going to run a lot of shell coverage, cover 2, cover 3 quarters. That's what they like to do. It can be difficult to get great deep shot matchups down the middle of the field against that type of defense. But I do think you can get some slot fades if they're running cover 2. Get Brian Thomas Jr. in the slot, which a couple of his big targets this year so far have been from the slot. I like that. More condensed formations. It's difficult for guys that align in the slot to stick with Brian Thomas Jr. But yeah, I think the slot fade, which is a route that the Jaguars do well. It's a route that Christian Kirk, Trevor Lawrence, Doug Peterson, and Brian Thomas Jr. in college excelled at. So, like, I think this is the type of week that you should see more cover 2 beaters. I think slot fade can do that. I think you should be using more motion, not just putting Brian Thomas Jr. in motion necessarily, but I liked actually on the pass that Brian Thomas Jr. dropped, they had Christian Kirk go in motion to identify coverage a little bit and to get Brian Thomas Jr. ISO'd. It was a good play. It just wasn't executed properly by Brian Thomas Jr. with the drop. But yeah, I want to see more motion, which it's built into the playbook. It's not just utilized a ton. Get him ISO'd in the right situations. You can run mesh, shallow cross, deep overs, and against zone, which is what you're going to be primarily seeing, you have to sit down in the hole, right? On the mesh concepts, on the shallow crossers. You have to sit in the right spot after you get outside the tackle box. So you got to execute that, right? But I think that's a way you can get him involved. I think the deep overs can work here. I want to see more posts as well. And you've seen that a little bit, right? You've seen a couple of them. But I want to continue to see that. You've got to have better protection, though. You've got to have better communication, both pre and post snap, between play caller, quarterback, offensive line, getting everything lined up properly, identifying protection. So there's a lot that goes into it beyond just like, we need to target Brian Thomas Jr. more. In order for it to be effective and in order for the Jaguars to effectively get the ball to him more, other things have to be happening and going better than they are right now. Wanted to give a quick shout out to Underdog Fantasy, where I play best ball, daily fantasy, and more. Making picks on Underdog is straightforward and signing up is even easier. Just head over to Underdog's simple-to-use mobile app or UnderdogFantasy.com, sign up with promo code DuvalDaily, and Underdog will give you a free pick to use on your first cash pick'em entry, plus up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you deposit. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code DuvalDaily to claim your new customer special of a free pick and your deposit offer. Must be 18 plus, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. Arizona, 1-800-NEXT-STEP, 1-800-639-8783, or text NEXT STEP to 53342. New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-8778-HOPE-NY, or text HOPE-NY at 467-369. Shout out to Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring the show. Now, not only does the offensive operation have to be better, the sequencing needs to be better. It's going to help free Brian Thomas Jr. up in the right spots at the right time. So, easy example of the play sequencing needed to be better and play calling in moments in game, like calling the deep shot backed up in your own goal line against a very, very good pass rush. Out and up is a long developing route, and it worked, but you don't have a lot of room to operate back there. You've got Myles Garrett screaming off the edge. You've got a really confident defensive front. Again, one of the best defenses in the league. That's one thing people kind of gloss over when talking about this football game between the Jaguars and the Browns. That was one of the best defenses in the league. So the play sequencing needs to be better. Pass pro needs to be better. Trevor Lawrence also needs to have more trust in what he's seeing and the pressure he's feeling. I think his feel for pressure is a little bit off right now, in large part due to the offensive line issues. But like bailing from that pocket that he bailed from down in the goal line, second quarter, he's got to be able to hit Brian Thomas Jr. for that touchdown, right? I do think that looking at the Bills' defense, that's very talented, very well coached. They are consistent in what they do, and they're not going to make a lot of huge blunders. But I do think this is the type of defense that Trevor Lawrence has had more success against in the past. Not a super diverse defense, not a crazy defense that shows a ton of wild looks, a defense that blitzes a ton. Maybe they changed that up a little bit this week, seeing what the Browns were able to do with the blitz. Who knows? But generally speaking, Sean McDermott is not like this huge game plan defensive coordinator. He kind of wants to run what he wants to run. But bottom line is you got to get Brian Thomas Jr. the ball a lot more. A lot more. Like, I'm talking 7 to 10 targets a game. Why not? Why not try to open up your offense and get things really going and become super explosive and just make it difficult for defenses to prepare for you with Brian Thomas Jr.? Because right now, even though Brian Thomas Jr. is a threat downfield, defenses aren't super respecting that because they know you're not going to try it all that often. Maybe that changes as they continue to work him the ball more. But I'm just telling you, feed Brian Thomas Jr., make it happen. And I think good results will happen, but at the very least, try it, right? There's literally no risk. Like the offense, the way it's operating right now, there is no risk in saying we're going to try to get Brian Thomas Jr. the ball a lot more. Protect your quarterback a little bit more consistency. It's a lot that needs to be cleaned up, but it is stuff that's not all that difficult to clean up, right? And you've seen the Jaguars struggle in these areas before. You've seen them pull themselves out of it. Can they do it? I don't know. I really don't. Hopefully they can. Obviously, that would make everybody tuning in very happy. Make Duval happy to go up and see the Jaguars upset the Buffalo Bills. I'm not predicting that, but you never know. Doug Peterson, the Jaguars, they've had a lot of success against the Bills. Josh Allen, Sean McDermott, they've struggled against Jacksonville. So going to be a fascinating matchup that we will get into more, but bottom line is Brian Thomas Jr. needs the football a lot more. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. If you enjoy the content, please like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. You can also check out genjag.com/shop, pick up some new Duval gear, become a channel member here on YouTube. You all have a good one.